Sark, could you just kind of wrap up and maybe kind of synopsize just how the 3 weeks have gone for you?
Well, I think the 3 weeks have gone well. We've learned a lot about our team from a personnel standpoint, to our strengths, our weaknesses, things that we think can become strengths as we continue to work on them, leaders that we can rely on. I think that every team takes on its own personality, and we're starting to see the personality of this team as well. I think it's been one of the better camps that we've had. It's hard to compare and contrast exactly, but it feels really good from an injury standpoint. I don't feel like we've gotten a bunch of injuries that way, but yet it's been physical. I think that some of the changes that we've made offensively have been effective for what we'd like to do, and I think it's been helpful to our defense. I think we have a versatile team, one that can play a variety of styles. In essence, we can play the pound you, grind you out against the physical teams, and I think we have the athleticism and the schemes to play against the athletic spread teams. And so I'm encouraged by the first 3 weeks. We have one more week to go to get prepared to play, and which is always needed when you start looking at the game plan and the details of the game plan and the nuances of things. We definitely need to work on that. I thought we had a really productive practice today in that we made it a very game-like practice, and so we got the flow of the game, offense, defense, with special teams as it came, not just a scripted out period in practice. So we got punt numerous times, we got punt return, we got kickoff return. So guys started to get a feel for that as well, and finding out they have a bigger role in special teams than maybe they first thought as their number kept getting called, and other guys understanding how to dig down deep when they might have played a few plays on defense, and now they need to get on punt return and block a guy for 50 yards. And so all of that stuff was great for us today. We'll come back and do something very similar on Saturday. To get our guys even more into the flow of the game, and at the same time working on the nuances and the details of the game plan for Boise.
From your opinion, is it maybe simplistic to say that you feel that you guys are ahead at this point than you were maybe a year last year?
Oh man, it's hard to compare all of that. All I can tell you is I feel really good about where we're at this year. You'd probably go look at last year's whatever practice we're on and look at my interview. I might have said the same thing. I don't know. I just know how I feel today, and how I feel about our staff, how I feel about our depth chart, our post-training camp depth chart, which I think we're trying to get to you guys here before the weekend or by the weekend for Raise the Woof, so that you guys know where everybody kind of stands on our roster today. But all in all, I feel good about where we're at. I feel good about the depth on this team, better than last year. I can tell you that. And obviously last year at this time, we had dealt with a great deal of injuries, especially up front on the offensive line. We had already lost Jamora at this point. We'd already lost Deontay Cooper at this point. So to be where we're at from a health standpoint has been big. And for whatever reason, other reasons, I feel really good about where we're at.
How do you balance having sufficient talent on special teams versus you don't want a bunch of starters at all times on special teams, especially with the tempo that you want to run this year?
I think one of the keys is your depth chart, and looking at your depth chart to make sure that a starter's not backing up a starter. So if we have some defensive players on a certain special teams group, they might be a starter on that special team, but his backup might be a backup on defense as well, so it's a natural step in to fill in for a guy if he's been on that field for quite a while. So there's a great balance. I think Johnny Nansen does a good job of finding his core guys that might not be frontline starters on offense, defense, but they're those 4 or 5 guys that every time a special teams play comes out, you see those same numbers running onto the field. And so I think we've identified those guys and who they are and where they can help us. But when we need to go run down on a kickoff and make a tackle, our best guys will be out there at the critical moments.
And kind of in the Wayback Machine, the Boise State had the one good return, and they were quiet basically. Right. Do you remember what went wrong in that return, and what's so important about those nuanced things as the season goes along and you lose a game by just 2 or 3 points?
Well, we felt good about our plan going into the game, and obviously they're looking at the same film we're looking at, so they're going to make their adjustments, and we're going to make ours, but we don't want to overanalyze things. We felt good about our plan. On that specific return, We felt like we covered it really well. We had one of our best tacklers, especially on kickoff, in position to make the play, Justin Glenn, who 9 times out of 10, I'd put him in that position over and over and over again. He makes the tackle. They had a really good returner who made a miss. He made a miss and then was able to scoot down the sidelines for, I think, to our 42-yard line or something like that. So things happen. Football happens. When they're physical errors, I can live with it. And that was just a physical error. It wasn't somebody out of alignment or somebody that went around to block or something. It was just their guy made our guy miss, and that's going to happen sometimes.
Sticking on special teams, is Coons separating himself still a little bit?
Yeah, I would imagine, and if we were playing a game Saturday, which in our mock game, Travis will kick field goals, Cameron will kick off for us, and then depending on the situation, you'll see Durkee and Coons doing some punt stuff. That one's not as solidified yet, but definitely the kicking aspect of it is pretty solidified.
Is that kind of based on maybe like a coffin corner type kick situation as opposed to a regular?
Well, I think it's power. I think it's accuracy. I think it's wear and tear on Travis as well. I notice him even more fresh kicking field goals now. He's not having to kick off every day in practice and all those things, and so that's a lot on a guy to do triple duty the way he had to do it last year, and it was probably unfair to him, but we were trying to do what was best for our team. But I think we're seeing the benefit of it. He's kicking field goals very well, very accurately right now, and he's playing the ball extremely well as well.
You mentioned the depth chart coming out for Raise the Wolf. Any surprises in your mind in terms of maybe coming into the fall, guys that were maybe on the cusp but that really showed themselves?
Oh, I think Kevin Smith has had a great training camp. I think he's a guy that I'd say, coming in we thought could be a nice role player for us offensively and contribute on special teams. He's a guy who's been really dynamic, especially the last 2 weeks of training camp. He's playing fast. He's kind of back to his own self. I think that what he's bringing to our offense, the big plays, had another big play today in the scrimmage, what he's doing for us in special teams. He's probably the biggest surprise for me of a guy that, you try not to lay expectations on people, but you have the pieces to the puzzle laid out on the table, and then you start putting them together. I don't know if we really thought going in number 8 would be such an integral piece to the puzzle, but right now he is.
Who are some of those leaders you mentioned emerged in the last 3 weeks?
Well, I think Colin Tanagawa, a really nice leader for us, a guy who hasn't been with us, for a little while because of the injury, and now that he's back and playing full time, full speed, his leadership is evident for sure. I think Kikaha, I need to pronounce now, Haoli Kikaha, that one's going to take a while. So I think his emergence, he's just a natural leader in that aspect of a guy who maybe we didn't anticipate being that role because we just didn't have him, is another nice leader for us. The natural guys are still there, obviously, in Keith and Shaq and Sean Parker. I think one other guy who might not wow everybody just the way he plays, but from a sheer leadership standpoint, DeAndre Campbell's an excellent leader. He's vocal, he's strong, he's attentive to details, he shows really good guidance to the younger players, and so I like the balance of leadership on this team. It's not, hey, I need these 2 guys to lead. It's pretty well spread out, our locker room, and that's a good thing.
Is Haoli back to, you can give him any responsibility on the defensive line, or is he still kind of ramping that up?
No, he's playing great. We're giving him multiple responsibilities. He's playing all over the place. He's doing nice things, rushing the passer, defending the run, dropping into coverage. So we're thrilled to have him back. I think he's a real key component to our defense.
So when you talk about Haoli, before he was really just kind of a rusher and kind of an edge
Right.
guy, for him to be doing more coverage, has it been a smooth transition for him?
He's been great. To all those guys, they've worked so hard, and it's a real credit to our medical staff and our training staff and rehabbing those guys. They're all doing everything. Haoli's doing it. Colin Tanagawa's playing. He just plays every down now at right guard. Jesse, Coop, they carried the ball all day today, and now even Lawrence is who was a little bit further behind. He's playing a bunch for us as well, which has been great. To have another big nose tackle in there for us is key for us. So all those guys, and Haoli, for all of them, to me, in especially the big guys, they almost look better than before. They almost look even more in shape. They almost even look a little bit more agile, which is encouraging.
Have you made any redshirt decisions at this point? You can share
No,
with
we're
us?
going to finalize all that by Saturday. I think it's relatively clear what we're going to do. there's a handful of guys that they're kind of in that gray area. They're in the two deep on special teams. We're trying to figure out how much they'd play on offense and defense, and how much of an impact they can have for us 4 weeks from now as we continue to work with them. So those are always the tough ones, the tough ones to make. And we're actually contemplating redshirting a couple guys that haven't redshirted yet, because that's how deep this roster is as compared to where we used to be.
Did Tianagawa get a red shirt for last year? Did you guys ever petition for that? Do you know?
I'd have to go exactly check with our compliance. I don't know if we've done that officially yet or not.
Lagofuino will play in the opener?
I would imagine so. I think so. He's not as far along as the other guys, but he has time still. He's got over a week to continue to condition himself. And when you're a big old guy in the middle of our defense, how critical it is for us to be stout in the middle and spill the ball to the outside to let our guys run and make those plays. He has a definite factor in our defense and the way we play.
So to piggyback on that, is there anybody right now that you would rule out of the game on Saturday?
I don't know. Patrick Inawali is going to see a specialist for his hand tomorrow. So he would be a guy that depending on what results we get back from that, it's hard to come back in a week's time. Eric Kohler, I don't think is going to make it back. He's still in a boot. Off the top of my head, those are the two that really jump out at me.
And with Eric, is it a situation where maybe by Arizona, by Pac-12 play, is it conceivable?
Again, I'm hopeful of that. So much of it is on his own body and how that thing heals. It's just not, it's not something that you can just kind of rehab it and you can get it better through rehab. It's something where, when you're talking about a bone healing, it takes time. And so we'll see what happens.
Good. You guys were wearing chips. The guys were wearing chips yesterday, the concussion thing that
Yeah,
you said.
yeah.
Is that experimental or is that kind of
No,
new
that's something we're
technology
going to do. We've been working with a company, X2, who's based out of Bellevue, and we've really been doing a lot of work with them for years now. They used to have the compression mouthpieces to gauge the impact of hits. We've been doing a lot of stuff with them with the behind the ear kind of gauging of the total impact of hits. It doesn't tell you instantly, hey, this is a concussion or not, but it is a way to start to gather information. And, safety's first. And in this day and age right now with head injuries in football and concussions, and in all sports for that matter, we're just trying to remain on the cutting edge. I think there's a handful of universities around the country that are doing it. We're fortunate enough to be one of those, and with this company in our backyard, and they've been great. Our players are actually excited about it. I think they want to know too, and so it's been great. And they've been a good partner of ours, and hopefully we can get some good information out of this.
Is that type of thing where there's a base level or something, or have you seen some of the information?
You got to talk to somebody smarter than me, Adam. I don't know exactly, but I do know that it's taken years to get to the point to where they're at today, with a lot of work and a lot of technology, and they feel great about where they're at in gathering the information. What comes out of that, I'm not exactly sure. We'll see. I don't know.
Sorry, I know you're close to Coach Carroll and the Hawks and everything. It seems like they've been using some interesting methods in terms of maybe like yoga and meditation and stuff. And are those ideas that the college game might embrace at some point?
They might already have been embraced. You don't know.
Is that something that this program might embrace?
We do yoga. Yeah, our guys do yoga. I think it's great, especially for the big guys from a flexibility standpoint. I think so much of what we do is about, we talk a lot about the next play and focusing on the next play and the task at hand. And when you can control your breathing and when you can take that deep breath and clear your mind and move on to the next snap is something that's pretty powerful for the people that can do it.
How about the coaching staff?
We do. I don't know. I try my best.